I'm Valerio Massimo Minale. You can read. I come from Italy, and I work into the University Luigi Bocconi in Milano, where I teach Roman trade law. And of course, it's a pleasure and an honor for me to be here as chairman for this session of our meeting here in Tel Aviv. So I will introduce our guests, our friends, and before I pray them to speak for 15 minutes, okay? Not 50, 15 minutes. So we will have the time after to make a kind of discussion, questions, and so on. Law in Transition is the title of our meeting. When I see the word transition, I'm a little bit frightened because it's a very, very difficult concept in our subject. I teach Roman law, so when I see medieval transitions, for me it's more difficult because it's quite a transition in a transition. Because for us, from Roman law scholars, medieval is a concept very, very, very hard, very, very difficult to understand. It's like an age of transition. So the first guest is Benoit, Alix. He's coming from the University of Panthéon-Assas, Paris. I read he's studying Canon and Roman law, so it's perfect for this kind of transition. And the title of the presentation is The Institution of Idoneus from Two Constitutions of the Fourth Lateran Council. Bishop's assistance for the cura animarum. So, let's go to listen to you.
Thank you. First of all, I would like thank you for your presence and the organization. The idea of this communication is to present you two constitutions from the Fourth Lateran Council in 1215. It was convened by the Pope Innocent III. The idea that I would like to present you is summarized by the Cardinal Auxiliaries, one of the best canonists in the 13th century. Although bishops are Christ's vicars, however, they cannot be everywhere as God can. In the Canon 760 of the Codex Juris Canonici, sacred ministers have the office of sole shepherd, pastores animarum. The two constitutions of the present communication are taken from the Fourth Lateran Council, numbers 9 and 10. In order to understand why the Council drew up this constitution, we have to keep in mind events in the beginning of the 13th century. In 1204, there was a fall of Constantinople by Crusaders. The vir idoneus designated by the bishop can be understood in this line of mind. First of all, I would like to present you the institution of vir idoneus and the reasons why the bishop could appoint one of them. There are some spiritual causes of their appointment. The first conciliar constitutions give some causes which could justify the appointment of viri idonei. One of them is the differences between languages in the same diocese. After the fall of Constantinople, papacy established a diocesan hierarchy of Latins, prelates, in the new Latin Empire in Orient. We can easily understand what types of problems could meet Latin bishops in the government of the diocese. That's why the second spiritual cause is the diversity of ritus and mores. that is to say, rates and customs. There is no comment by the ordinary gross or by the decretalist. Maybe ritus could be applied to the religious offices in the liturgical forms recognized by the papacy. However, mores could designate more certainly customs and local practices tolerated by the papacy. Bishops could seek the papacy when they don't know how to define rules. So, in 1206, Innocent III gave an answer to the Latin Patriarch of Constantinople. The Patriarch told, "Do I restrain Greeks to use Latin rites for the sacrifice and the other sacraments, or do I let them use theirs?" Pope Innocent III gave an answer. It is possible to let them use their rites until another decision of the papacy. Now we have to take account the second group of causes, temporal causes. The conciliar constitutions designate occupationes multiplices. To understand the plural dimensions of the bishop's office, it is necessary to keep in mind a triptych about their role: shepherd, minister of sacraments, and judge. Sometimes bishop is allowed to. Another occupatio could be designated repression of the heresy. The second cause relative to the bishop is the physical disability. Indeed, the exercise of some episcopal competencies requires the necessity to move up in the diocese, l'officium visitationis, for example. In this point, the Fourth Lateran Council takes account of the legislation of the Fourth Civil Council in 633 by the famous Bishop Isidorus. One of the chapters of this council had been integrated in the Decretum Gratiani. The text gives the possibility to the bishop to delegate his competencies to priors and deacons worthy, presbyteri probabiles aut diacones. The second group of causes is not relative to bishops. One of them is the evasion of foreigners. If the bishop has some temporary difficulty to exercise his competencies, he can appoint a vir idoneus. Another cause is relative to the area of a diocese which is under the government of the bishop, ampliae et diffusae dioceses. A third and last cause can be invoked. It is a lack of science of a bishop, defectum scientiae. Bishop science is one of the conditions to the realization of his office. Now it is time to talk about the competencies designated for vir idoneus. There is a principle. All the competencies attributed to the bishop have to be exercised by them. As successor of the 12 apostles, the bishop plays a fundamental role in the Societas Christiana. The Decretum Gratiani in the middle of the 12th century includes some canons about their office. For example, the Distinctio 25, Canon 1. It attributed to the bishop these functions: to ordain basilicas, altar unctions, consecrated oil, ordain priors, and bless consecrated virgins. What types of competencies can the bishop allocate to vir idoneus? The only goal to the competencies is salus else, salus animalum. The bishop and the vir idoneus have to be examples for people with their speech and their acts. Conciliar fathers take account for the ecclesiastical tradition about the exemplum by speech and acts. Firstly, there are some competencies about the bishop's office. The Mass celebration ecclesiastical sacraments and the officium praedicationis. It seems that the council clarifies a factual situation which can be defined in some dioceses. For example, Guy des Vaux de Cernay, Carcassonne bishops in the south of France, appointed in 1230 Dominic as vicar in spiritualibus. Indeed, the Fourth Lateran Council is in line with the beginning of the order of preachers. The officium praedicationis begins a fundamental issue in this period by the fight against heresies. The second group is more relative to the discipline, the sacrament of the reconciliation, and the sacraments of the penance. The Conciliar Constitution, number 21 of the Fourth Lateran Council, can explain the necessity to give assistance to the bishop. Indeed, this text institutes the principle of the confession, at least annual, by all Christians to their proprius sacerdos. Then we have to see what were the means by which the bishop can supervise the function of the viri idonei. And first of all, the nature of the power. The two constitutions of the Fourth Lateran Council give a different name to the viri idonei. Three names are used: vicarius, coadjutor, and cooperator. The first conciliar constitution uses the name of vicarius. There is a condition to appoint him, an urgent necessity. Moreover, the vicarius has to be a Catholic prelate. The bishop has to designate him in a determined natio. In other words, in the natio in which he needs some help. Does this vicarius be a bishop? The conciliar constitution does not say anything. Ostiensis thinks that he does, because if he is not bishop, he could not confer ecclesiastical orders. The Constitution number 10 gives two more names, coadjutor and cooperator. The use of the two types of expressions is the means by which conciliar fathers allow adaptation of the local situations. Sometimes the Latin bishop needs a prelate with the rank of bishop, sometimes none. Is it a delegation of power? The conciliar text uses two types of expressions, constituere and ordinary. The first one is a verb in the active form. The second one is a present infinitive in the passive form. In all the situations, only the bishops is judged about the necessity to appoint someone as vicarius, cooperator, or coadjutor. The cletalists agree on the point. They are bishops vicar, vicarius episcopi. In the juridical form, it is a delegation of powers. This delegation is possible because bishop is qualified as ordinarius in sua diocesi. This title allows him to appoint a vicar. Although it is cooperator or coadjutor is a vicarius, the nature of the jurisdictio or potestas is ordinaria and not only delegata. However, a limitation could be found in decretist. This jurisdictio ordinaria could be only exercised on people who talk the same language that this vicar. What were the means used by the bishop in order to supervise actions? The bishop's vicar, vicarius episcopi, has to be obedient, obedience, and submissive, subjectus. This is provided by the Constitution number 9, and it is corollary of the unity of the diocese. A diocese cannot have more one pontifices, as a body cannot have more one head. In contrary, it is a monster, quasi-monstrum. In order to respect these constitutions, there is a sanction provided by one's constitution. If someone of a vir idoneus is negligent in this delegation, he will be subject to a punishment. Sometimes the bishop could request the help of the secular arm. The exigence of an absolute subordination is complete for the viri idonei. If one of them acts wrongly and refuses to obey to the bishop who appointed him, this bishop could excommunicate him. Moreover, if the vir idoneus does not come to obedience, he should be removed of his ecclesiastical office. In the hardest cases, bishop could request for help by the secular arm. The Conciliar Constitution, number 27 of the Fourth Lateran Council, provides that source government, regimen animarum, is the art of the arts, ars artium. The two constitutions of the present communication prove it. The ecclesiastical office of bishop is more and more important in the 13th century. That's why the necessity to appoint one viri idoneus or some viri idonei is a welcome means for bishops in order to realize their competencies. One more time, the Pope Innocent III shows his legal competencies by this constitution of the Fourth Lateran Council. Thank you for your attention.